A year ago, I think you might not have liked the political realities, but a year ago, we thought we knew the basic structure of life. We thought we knew where we fit in and what we had and what we didn't have, and maybe even what the next few months to a year would look like in each of our individual lives. Well, that assumption no longer exists. It feels like everything is up in the air and nothing is solid and nothing is certain anymore. In the midst of this, I think the thing that we forget is that we are not alone. This is not the first time, and it won't be the last time, that life has seemed for a whole lot of people out of control, or certainly out of our control. But we are not alone. The Hebrew people were in just about this place in the story that we step into today. For having been enslaved in Egypt for more years than they could remember, they had gotten their freedom. They had packed their bags and walked away. But in gaining their freedom, they lost their certainty. The food that they could get in Egypt was probably bad, but at least they knew where the next meal was coming from. At least you knew what you were going to do the next day when you woke up. But now they're wandering in the desert like homeless nomads. Well, you never know where your next meal will come from, if there will be water somewhere to be found. There was no way to predict when the next windstorm would whip up, sending sand stinging into your eyes and filling every nook and cranny with grit. Now, I've never been to a desert. I've been out in a boat far enough into the ocean to not be able to see land, far enough to realize that I don't know where anything is, and I don't know what direction we're going or where we want to be going. So I can only imagine the experience of being in a desert, a vast desert, just looking at sand dunes in every direction with nothing that tells you where you came from or where you should be going. This is where the Hebrew people found themselves. Now, where we pick up the story today, Moses has already climbed the mountain to listen for God's message and hopefully a sense of direction. But he took a really long time, and the people got nervous and they got anxious and they got impatient. So when Moses came down with those 10 commandments, he discovered that while he was up there communing with God, they had chipped in all their jewelry and they had molded a golden calf to represent God, the way that they had seen back in Egypt. And surely the idol was an understandable result of their fear and their need to touch and see the God who was leading them. They needed certainty. And poor Moses was stuck in the middle between these frustrated people and a very mysterious God. In their last sacred meeting, God had told Moses he was done with them, saying pretty much, I've had it with this people, with their constant complaining. You are on your own now. I'm not going to go any farther with you. I really should torch the whole lot of them. They've tried my patience. As Moses goes back to meet with this God once again, he's feeling the heat from the disgruntled people and God's impatience with them at the same time. But Moses hoped that God might want to reconsider. So he approaches this prayer session with his honest opinion. Kind of like, look, God, I remember the Exodus was your idea. These people are your people. You chose them. I need you to assure us that you're going to take care of them. I want to know where we're going. Moses is just asking God for details, for some certainty. I want to know what's coming. I want an agenda, a game plan, a travel log. I want certainty because all this unknowing is making us uncomfortable. Reveal your plan, your blueprint, your big picture. Could you show us your GPS? I'd like to know where I'm going to end up following you. Debbie Thomas admits feeling this way, saying, I have prayed Moses' prayer many times. I have wanted God to show me the way in new cities that I have moved to. I've asked for certainty during periods of illness and loss and grief. No more mystery, I've prayed. Just show me your way. Now, we might have expected God to reply to Moses' brash request with, like, who do you think you are trying to tell me what I have to do? But God listens and God responds with compassion. So you have a point. So forget what I said about incinerating everyone. My presence will go with you and I will give you rest. But is Moses satisfied with this answer? It's still too vague. Show me your glory, he asked. If you're not going to give me the details, then overwhelm my senses with your fullness, with your radiant, unmediated self. Then I'll know that I'll be ready for this journey. And we've probably prayed this reckless prayer of Moses too. Just show up. We beg in times of fear and confusion. Just stop being so mysterious and elusive. I want to see you, to keep going, which really means I want some more control over my life. Now Moses is asking for a vision, to see divinity face to face, to know this God more intimately. And to get to know someone, you want to look at them face to face. When we say, look me straight in the eye, we mean show me who you really are. Speak the truth. To see God face to face would be to know God absolutely, to exhaust the mystery of God's being, to understand everything about God and the universe. But that is more than we are able to comprehend. So God responds, yeah, that's not going to work because it would kill you, and now I kind of like you. But I will show you a little more. Even though you cannot see my full face, I will make known to you who I am. So God tells Moses to hide in the crack of a rock in the mountainside, and God will cover Moses and pass by. And then the last second, as God is passing by, God's hand will move so that Moses can see just a glimpse of God's backside. Just to be clear, we are way beyond being literal here. This is meant to be a poetic description. The writer gives God these human characteristics, but it's impossible to interpret this literally. It's not a story about God with a physical hand large enough to cover the mouth of a cave. The Creator is beyond our understanding, beyond our imagination. We have to remember that any description of God is inadequate. And yet God is present with us. We can feel God's presence. We can feel and see God's goodness when it passes by. When it passes by in the form of grace, forgiveness, ceaseless love. It might just be that God's glory is too much for us because God is more forgiving than we are ready to accept and embrace. We need the whole journey of life to get to that place where our love is as broad as God's. I think Moses' experience rings true to life for us. We have no ability to grasp the fullness of God, so we live, however uneasily, in the necessity of mystery. And God's glory is not just some kind of mystical out-of-body experience. God's glory, God's character, God's power is found in the everyday, in loving relationships, in community. It's actually very down to earth. Brett Younger describes it for us this way, saying sometimes during a crisis or on an ordinary day, just every once in a while, we have the almost unmistakable feeling that someone is holding us. Someone is loving us. There are intimations, hints, inklings of mystery. At other times, we hear God's voice and the voices of people we love, and they mention some half-forgotten scrap of the past, and we laugh more than is sensible, and something tells us that those moments matter eternally. And sometimes when we are completely silent, we feel a spirit, a hope that tells us we're not alone. We've known moments in life when life's meaning seems a little bit clearer. You've known that feeling that your life is trying to tell you something, trying to take you somewhere. Those glimmerings of truth bring us closer to the truth that there is one who is more than we can see. There is one who is wiser than we are. And as Abraham Maslow wrote, the great lesson from the true mystics is that the sacred is in the ordinary, that it is to be found in one's daily life, in one's neighbors and friends and family. It's in one's own backyard. God's graciousness passes before us each day. And Richard Rohr reminds us that the whole Bible is about meeting God in the actual, in the incarnate moment, in the scandal of particularity, not somewhere in theories. The Bible seems to be always saying that this life is indeed a journey. It's a journey initiated and concluded by God. And the surrender of faith does not happen in one moment, but it is an extended journey. Life is a trust walk, a gradual letting go and learning and handing over. It's a journey of transformation. We just need to learn to let life come at us in its own terms, not resisting that wonderful underlying mystery that is everywhere, all the time, offered to us. So right now, you might be in between jobs. You might be in between relationships. The future might look very foggy and uncertain right now. But remember that you are not alone. For there are many unintentional mystics who have taken this journey through the desert before you. And this community is here to walk it with you. And that mysterious presence is here now. It is leading you. It is holding you. It is loving you, whatever comes next. And that is reason enough to sing.